Good morning, students. Welcome to the class on spectroscopy. Today we will discuss about the introduction to spectroscopy, its definition, then the radiation sources which we use for different spectroscopic techniques, Planck's law, and we also see some problems which were previously asked in CSIR and the GATE exams. When we were given a chemical bottle which was labeled well, then we can easily say the compound in the bottle, and of course we can also predict its structure. But when we have synthesized some new compound for our research purpose, or when the bottle is not labeled, then how do we predict the name of the compound, or how do we determine the structure of the molecule? The structure of the molecule of newly synthesized compounds will be determined based on the spectroscopic techniques. Different spectroscopic techniques were available to identify or investigate the structure composition of the molecule. What is the basic definition of spectroscopy? Spectroscopy is the study of interaction between matter and electromagnetic radiation as a function of the wavelength or frequency of the radiation. So spectroscopy is just the interaction of sample what we have prepared with the light source we use. When we pass light onto a sample, then it absorbs the light, then it interacts with the light, then based on the interactions, it will absorb some light and it will emit the remaining light. So a detector which is placed at the right path will identify the light which is transmitted from the sample. Then accordingly, it will give the information about the sample in terms of a graph which will be displayed on a computer screen. So basically, the interaction of sample with light will lead to a characteristic changes in the molecule. So that detector will detect and will give the information to the computer screen in terms of a graph. On a broad category, spectroscopy is divided into two classes. One is absorption spectroscopy, another one is emission spectroscopy. What is absorption spectroscopy? If the spectroscopy results from the absorption of light, then it is called absorption spectroscopy. When we pass light onto a sample, then it absorbs the light, and with the absorbed light, it will excite from the ground state to the excited state. So the electrons in the ground state will be excited to the excited state. What we can say, the electrons in the ground state can be transmitted to the excited state. So this is ground state and this is excited state. E denotes the energy. So ground state will have lower energy, excited state will have higher energy. In the case of organic compounds, what we say is this electronic transition occurs between HOMO and LUMO, highest occupied molecular orbital and lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. If the spectroscopy results from the emission of light, then that spectroscopy is called emission spectroscopy. The molecule which is, or the electrons which are excited to excited state, they are not stable in the higher energy states. So obviously they will come back to ground state by emitting the energy. If the detector detects this emitted light and that results in a spectrum, then it is called emission spectroscopy. So basically, absorption spectroscopy is due to the absorption of light. That means the changes are primarily because of the absorption of light. Then emission spectroscopy is the emission of light. So the changes in the molecule are characteristic of the emission of light. Now we will see electromagnetic radiation, because in all the spectroscopic techniques we use light as the source. We pass light onto the sample. So what is light? Light which is emitting from sun, that is called electromagnetic radiation. So it is the radiant energy that displays both the properties of light, properties of waves and particles. But for spectroscopic techniques, we need particle nature. So particle nature is given by Max Planck, and the relation between energy and wavelength of frequency is given by Planck's equation. So the equation is E is equal to h nu, or E is equal to hc by lambda, or E is equal to hc nu bar. What are these quantities? H is Planck's constant, whose value is 6.626 into 10 power minus 34 joule into second. Nu is frequency of light, which we use for a particular spectroscopic technique. Its units are cycles per second or hertz. C is velocity of light, which is again a constant value. Its value is 2.98 into 10 power 8 meters per second, or in general we can take it as 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. Lambda is wavelength of the light. Since it is a length, we use the units as centimeters or meters. Generally it is a very small value, so we use nanometers or angstroms in case of wavelength. Nu bar is the wave number. Nu bar is nothing but 1 by lambda, so it is inverse of lambda. So the units are generally centimeters inverse. Now the Planck's equation is used to calculate the energies when we have wavelengths or vice versa. So throughout the spectroscopic techniques, we use only Planck's equation for calculating the energies. Now, what is electromagnetic spectrum? Electromagnetic spectrum is nothing but the all types of radiations which are emitted from the sun. When we look at the different radiations which are emitting from the sun, we will start with the lowest energy. Radio waves are the radiations with the lowest energy. When we increase the energy of the radiations, this order will follow. So next higher energy radiations are microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays. So these are the radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays are in the order of increasing energy. Since E is proportional to nu, frequency, energy is proportional to frequency, so this is also the order of increasing frequency. When we talk about wavelength, wavelength is inversely proportional to energy. So this is the order of decreasing wavelength, or the reverse is the order of increasing wavelength. Now, how these different radiations will influence a sample when it falls on a particular sample. Right. First, we will see the energy values. Of course, we don't need to remember them. These are just for information. We need to remember the wavelength ranges of different radiations. Radio waves range from 10 centimeters to 10 kilometers. Of course, they are the lowest energy radiations or highest wavelength radiations. Then microwaves range from 1 millimeter to 10 centimeters. Infrared radiations range from 750 nanometers to 1 millimeter. Visible radiation ranges from 400 nanometers to 750 nanometers, or in general, we can also say 800 nanometers. Ultraviolet light ranges from 10 nanometers to 400 nanometers. Generally, it will be 1, but we will consider 10 nanometers to 400 nanometers. X-rays range is from 10 picometers to 10 nanometers. Of course, X-rays are very, very dangerous. When we go to gamma rays are still dangerous. So we don't know the upper limit of gamma rays. Similarly, cosmic rays, which are even more dangerous, we don't know the ranges for cosmic rays. You know, gamma rays research itself, it is very, very difficult. Nobody knows about the research on cosmic rays. Now we will see how these radiations will interact with a sample. When radio waves are allowed to pass onto a sample because of their low energy, they will only change the spin of the system. They don't cause much change in the sample, but only they'll change the spin of the system. So radio waves are generally used for resonance spectroscopic techniques. We use NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, EPR, electron paramagnetic resonance spectroscopy, or in other words, we also call it as ESR, electron spin resonance spectroscopy. The medical application of resonance spectroscopy is the MRI, which generally these days all doctors are preferring, magnetic resonance imaging, which gives image of the body. When we pass microwaves onto a specimen, because of its higher energy than radio waves, it will induce molecular rotations in the specimen. Because of the molecular rotations, the orientation of the molecule will change. Or in other words, we can say the conformation of the molecule will change. So it will not cause any changes. It will, at the maximum, it can only change the conformation. The spectroscopy which utilizes microwaves is the Raman spectroscopy. Generally, microwaves plus infrared radiations, both are used for Raman spectroscopy. But the principle is change of orientation. When we allow infrared radiations to fall on a sample, because of its higher energy than microwaves, so apart from molecular rotations, it will also cause molecular vibrations. That means it will cause vibrations of the bonds. Because of the molecular vibrations, the configuration of the molecule will change. So the spectroscopy which uses infrared radiation is called as infrared spectroscopy. Now the visible and ultraviolet radiations, because of their higher energy, when they fall on a specimen, they will excite outer electrons, or we can say excitation of valency electrons. So when visible light and ultraviolet light falls on a specimen, electrons in ground state, valency electrons in ground state can be excited to higher states. Because of these electronic transitions, the electronic distribution will change. The spectroscopy which utilizes UV visible light is called as UV visible spectroscopy. Now, when we pass X-rays onto a specimen, because of its higher energy compared to UV visible, now core electrons will be excited. So that means when we are exposed to X-rays, what is happening? The core electrons in the atom, a molecule, are allowed to excite from ground state to higher state. So that is why X-rays are very, very dangerous. So the spectrum which utilizes X-rays is called as XRD spectroscopy, X-ray diffraction spectroscopy. X-rays are X-rays are very high energetic. They cause radiation. The medical application of X-rays is X-ray which we get for our body. You know, up to 2000 or 2010, X-rays played a very important role in medical diagnosis, identification of diseases or treatment of the diseases. You know, from 1900 itself up to 2000, or we can say 2010, it is the main source of diagnosis in the medical history. The world X-ray instruments radiate more energy, so that is why people don't take more than 1 or 2 X-rays per day. But the latest X-ray instruments are very advanced. They radiate less energy. So nowadays we can take up to 10 X-rays per day. But yeah, it is in principle we can take 10 X-rays, but don't go further. X-rays can cause excitation of core electrons, so it will damage the atom. Okay, when we change the core electrons, we can say we are damaging the atom. So that is why X-rays are very, very dangerous. Now you think of gamma rays. Gamma rays, exposure to gamma rays is even more dangerous compared to X-rays. When we allow gamma rays onto a specimen, nuclear excitations takes place. That means nucleus from ground state to will excite to excited state. Because of that, changes in nucleus will occur. You know, when nucleus changes, that means we are destroying one nucleus and we are creating another nucleus. That means we are completely damaging the sample. So gamma rays are used in gamma rays will cause change of nuclear configuration. It is used in Massober spectroscopy. But here, the difference between UV visible X-ray IR or Massober is that in all other spectroscopic techniques, we have light sources in terms of we have light sources in terms of bulbs or filaments which emit that particular radiation. But gamma rays are highly dangerous, so it is very difficult to generate gamma rays. So what we use as a light source for gamma rays in Massober spectroscopy is we use a very high energy nucleus which can emit gamma rays. Generally, we use cobalt, radioactive cobalt, which releases gamma rays and will be converted to iron. So in Massober spectroscopy, we don't use any filament as the light source. We use another radiative element which will release gamma rays. As I said, cosmic rays are highly dangerous, so we don't have any spectroscopic techniques on cosmic rays. In the visible, we have VGR, violet to red. Violet light is of high energy, red light is of low energy or longer wavelength. When we look at this, red light is having longer wavelength among the visible light. Green light is having high energy, or we can say high intensity. When I say red light is longer in wavelength, green light is higher in intensity, then we can easily predict why these lights were used in traffic signals. Now we will see some problems here. So first we will see the fourth problem. These problems were previously given in CSIR and GATE exams. Among the following radiations, the largest frequency. When we remember the complete electromagnetic spectrum, starting from lower energy to higher energy, radio waves, microwaves, IR, visible, UV, X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays, then we can easily predict which one is having higher energy or higher frequency or higher wavelength. Second problem. Next problem. The range of electromagnetic spectrum employed in the UV visible spectrum. UV light is from 1 to 400 nanometers. Visible light is from 400 to 800. So it must be from 400 to 800. Of course, for some reasons, we use only from 200 to 800. That I will discuss in the next class. Now we will see these three problems. The wavelength of the spectral region and the spectral range for a single electron transfer across the band gap in a semiconductor are. So we need to find out the wavelength, at the same time the spectral range. We were given energy and H. We need to find out the lambda, so that we can easily calculate using Planck's equation. But out of these four options, we can simply eliminate two. See, 1000 nanometers, it is not UV, it is IR. 500 nanometers is visible, not IR. So the options A and B, D are obviously wrong. Now we will see what is the wavelength and its range. Now we will write whatever it was given. So we were given E value, we were given H value. What is Planck's equation for lambda? It is E is equal to Hc by lambda. Now we will rearrange it in terms of lambda Hc by E. When we substitute all these quantities, 6.625 into 10 power minus 34 joule second multiplied by 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second divided by 6.626 into 10 power minus 34 joule second. Now we can cancel out. I'm sorry, this is 1.98 into 10 power minus 19 joules. We can cancel out second inverse, so they will get cancelled. Joule, they will get cancelled. So the resultant is meters. Now we will simplify it. Lambda is equal to 6.625. In case of competitive exams, you just go for taking some shortcuts. 6.625, you don't need to use the complete number. You just take this, then 3 divided by 1.98, you go for 2, then 10 power minus 19, when it is made numerator, it becomes 10 power plus 19. 19 plus 8, it is 27. Minus 34 plus 27, it is minus 7 meters. Now we were given in terms of nanometers. What is nanometer? 10 power minus 9 meters. Right. We can cancel it 3.3. So it is 9.9 into 10 power 2 into 10 power minus 9 meters, or 990 nanometers. The answer is 1000. So it is around 1000. Though we don't get it because we have simplified them, we don't get the exact value. So 990 is related to 1000. Now we know the different spectral ranges. Visual is 400 to 800. More than 800, it is IR. So the answer is wavelength is 1000 nanometers and the spectral range is IR. Now we will see the third problem. The de Broglie wavelength of an electron of kinetic energy 500 electron volts is. We can simply calculate it. We were given energy as 500 electron volts. 1 electron volt is equivalent to 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 joules. We were asked to calculate the lambda. So we can use Planck's equation. E is equal to hc by lambda, or we can rearrange it. Lambda is equal to hc by E. Of course, we know all these terms. H 6.625 into 10 power minus 34 joule second. C 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second by E 500 electron volts. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 joules. So here also seconds, joules and joules will get cancelled. So what we will get is meters. Then 10 power minus 19, if it is made numerator, it becomes plus 19, 18 plus 19, 27, 34 minus 19, it becomes 10 power minus 7. As I said, we can take 6.63 by 1.6 into 500. Now this can be simplified as 66 by 16, 3 by 500 into 10 power minus 7 meters. 16, we can cancel it out. It will come around 4.1. 16 fours are 64. So remaining 2. When we take point, it becomes 20. Now when we multiply it, 12.3 by 5 into these 100, 10 power 10 square can be made numerator, so it becomes 10 power minus 9 meters. When we simplify it further, it becomes 2.46, and we were asked to represent the lambda in angstroms. So angstroms 10 power minus 8 centimeters. First convert these meters into centimeters. Now we need 10 power minus 8. So what we will do, 24.6 into 10 power minus 8 centimeters, nothing but 24.6 angstroms. Now when we look at the answers, it is 14, 24, 34 and 44. Our answer is near to 24. So the answer is 24. Similarly, we can calculate the wavelength of photon which is having an energy of 1 electron volt. It will come around 12,000. So you practice it.